So in today's video, we're going to talk about Manchester City 2, Napoli nil, and we're also going to talk about Barcelona's 2-1 win over Newcastle United. I'm going to do a 2 and 1 because it's late and I don't have the time to do two videos tonight. But my overview of both games before I get into the Newcastle game, then the Manchester City game was I said at the start of the season I felt like Doku was going to have a good year. I saw promising signs from him at the back end of last season Club World Cup. He's continuing to impress. My predictions for players that are going to have a good season are looking pretty good, bar one so far. Also, Erling Haaland. I chose Erling Haaland in FPL at the beginning of the season over Salah. I had a feeling Haaland's going to have a good season. He scored again in the Champions League, breaking records. Thought Foden looked back to his best. Trust Manchester United to give Man City the confidence. And Donnarumma didn't have much to do today, but he's looking like a keeper. He looks like he fills City with confidence. On Newcastle's end, Woltemade should have started. Elanga should not have come off. I thought Newcastle were fantastic in the first half in terms of when you look at the opposition, who it is, the quality Barcelona have. But I felt once Barcelona went 1-0 up through Marcus Rashford brilliance, Newcastle struggled to get in the game. I thought Thiaw when he came on was good, but I thought Eddie Howe got it very wrong in regards to not starting Woltemade. So that's my quick overview of the games, but I actually want to get into a detailed review of these two Champions League games. And before we even get into the detailed review, Napoli's always going to be a difficult game for Man City. And some Man City fans wanted more because Napoli went down to 10 men. But I think Man City fans don't forget. I think some Man City fans have forgotten that when a team goes down to 10 men, they just park the bus and they sit so deep. It's almost harder sometimes when a team goes down to 10 men because you were getting less space. And I think having Foden created and the patient approach worked. And I thought that Newcastle had a good first half, lacked in the second half. I think Newcastle showed glimpses of quality, but Barcelona are a different level. They're just a different level. But let's get into the overview of the game. Barcelona is a very difficult game. I think they were favourites to win. I think City were favourites to beat Napoli. And look, the 3 points is so important for Man City because as they would have learned from last season, they didn't get enough points. So we'll start with Newcastle, and then we will talk about Manchester City. And I'm just going to say, first of all, as a big Manchester United and Marcus Rashford fan, a Manchester United fan that did not like the decision to kick out Marcus Rashford, and has always backed Marcus Rashford over the media's constant hate. Marcus Rashford, I've always said this, is the scapegoat. Man United have this thing where there has to be a scapegoat. McTominay, Ronaldo, Rashford, De Gea, and I'm fed up of it. And I'm so glad that Marcus Rashford had a good game today. And I'm so glad he showed his quality because I hate the way that the media treat Marcus Rashford. He's a good player, and people will realise he's a good player once he leaves Manchester United and once he gets away from the toxic English media. But let's talk about Newcastle. So this is Newcastle's team going into it, and I have to say, Marcus Rashford in the first half was very poor. Trippier was very good. I thought Shah and Dan Burn were good, but I have to say, the signs from Botman, the signs from Chow, they are top defenders, and I do think long term Newcastle's back line will be, and I think that's the plan because of age, will be Botman and Chow. And look, it was only a little cameo from Chow, but I think if I was a Newcastle fan, I would be impressed with that cameo. I think Botman, you know what you get, it's just injury prone. I don't think it was Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes and Joelinton's best game, but they're coming up against an elite Barcelona midfield, arguably the best midfield in the world, so you can give him the benefit of the doubt for that. I thought Elanga was fantastic and unlucky to come off. Wasn't impressed with Barnes. I think the goal's most important thing for Gordon. I think he needs the confidence because we know there's a good player in Gordon, but he's not been at his best for a while. But I thought Elanga had a very good, particularly first half, putting some good crosses in the box. And I just thought if Woltemade was there to get on the end of the crosses, you're looking at potentially a goal. So it was a well-disciplined first half from Newcastle. I think they limited Barcelona well before the break. And Barcelona, once they went 1-0 up through the Rashford header, they then started playing. I think once Barcelona went 1-0 up and there was a bit more space, you saw how good Barca were, and Newcastle couldn't get back in the game. And Marcus Rashford was absolutely phenomenal today. Really happy for the lad. And he changed the game. What a goal. And that Marcus Rashford, the thing about Marcus Rashford is he was quite poor the first half, but then he gets his goal. And when Marcus Rashford's in the zone, he's brilliant. And it really annoyed me that Unai Emery took Marcus Rashford off against PSG last season because Marcus Rashford got in the zone in that game and then he took Rashford off. But when Rashford is in that mindset, when Rashford's in flow state, he's one of the best players in the world. The problem with Rashford is it's all in his mind. When he tries too hard, when he's not confident, when he's overthinking it, he's bad. But when he's in that mindset, he's good, and you saw that in the second half. And he's one of the hardest players to come up against when he's like that. I thought Newcastle just lacked the cutting edge. I don't think Newcastle did anything other than the goal and the Tonali kick at the end in the second half. I felt that that's what they lacked. They lacked that individual quality in attack, and I think that's one big thing that obviously Newcastle got to work on this season, breaking down low blocks, having that quality in attack. I think Vissa coming back will be a boost. Obviously, they've lost Isak, but if Gordon can find his form, if Barnes can find his form, if Elanga plays like that again, Woltemade shows good signs. You've got Vissa coming in. I think Newcastle will be all right. I did always say maybe they should look at Harvey Elliott, maybe a creative player to help with low blocks. But you know, that's what it is. And look, I'm a massive Eddie Howe fan. I've spoke very positively about Eddie Howe, but he was so wrong not to play Woltemade today, because the reason he was so wrong about it is if you look at Newcastle's first few games this season, they lacked that number 9, they lacked that focal point. We've seen that Gordon hasn't really worked at number 9. Newcastle were decent against Villa, they were decent against Liverpool, but they didn't get the 3 points in those games because they lacked that guy and they lacked that presence. And I think with Elanga's crossing, I just think Eddie Howe was wrong to not start Woltemade. I do. I think he was massively wrong about that. For me, Gordon should go back to the left because you need a focal point in the middle. I thought Woltemade didn't get heavily involved today, but nice touches, nice control. We saw he can score a header. I thought Elanga's crosses were good. I think Woltemade, when he came on, he held the ball. He gave the attack a bit more presence. And I just think moving Gordon back to the left, him and Barnes can compete for that spot. You've got Murphy and Elanga compete for the right wing spot, and then you'll have Vissa and Woltemade compete for up top. And the one thing about Woltemade is when Vissa's back, he could play as a 10 behind Vissa because of the versatility of Woltemade. I think it's good options for Newcastle to have, and I think Eddie Howe got it so wrong about Woltemade today. I want to talk about Malik Chow. I thought Malik Chow was a positive in his cameo. I thought he was really good, composed, looked good on the ball, progressing the ball well. I think Botman and Chow long-term will be the natural first-choice pairing. I think they would complement each other quite well and good players. I thought Elanga had a really good game, particularly first half direct. Probably shouldn't have been subbed off. And if I was to talk about lessons learned from a Newcastle perspective, good 45 minutes, fell flat in the second half, lacked the focal point. Eddie Howe maybe got some calls wrong today. Big Eddie Howe fan, who's one of my favourite managers. I think his story of what he did with Bournemouth and what he's done at Newcastle and being an English manager, I'm a big Eddie Howe fan, and I think he's done a really good job at Newcastle. But today, it's Barcelona. You weren't expecting Newcastle to win, but we know what Newcastle could do in big games. I do think he got some of his calls wrong today. But Newcastle just have this, sorry, not Newcastle, Barcelona just have this elite level quality. So let's now talk about Manchester City 2, Napoli 0. City dominated possession. They had 23 shots to Napoli's 1. And obviously, the 10 men changed the game. I think when it was 11 versus 11, there was a little bit more space behind Napoli for City to attack. And Napoli were trying to get at City more. But the minute Napoli lost a man, they just defended. And it wasn't the most... It wasn't like the best, most exciting City performance in the world, but it was one of those where the best way I can explain it is City were very much in control, very patient, and you knew they were going to find the opening and go 1-0 up. You just knew that they were going to win. It was a very well disciplined performance, is probably the way I would say. It's professional win, and Man City got the 3 points, and they will know those 3 points are vital because they didn't pick up as many 3 points as they wanted to last year in the group stage. And look, Doku was fantastic. I thought Foden looked back to his best, and Haaland breaks the record. But I actually thought Kusanov looked quite good at right back, pretty faster than you think. I thought Diaz looked better, and Donnarumma had nothing really to do today, but we saw it in the Manchester United game. Unfortunately, I'm a Man United fan. Donnarumma gives a different level of presence. I feel like he feels that line with confidence, Donnarumma, because of his presence there. He can claim the crosses, he can shot stops. When you want him to save something, he will. Donnarumma, he was fantastic against Manchester United with those saves. Didn't see him lows today. He made a good stop today when he came low. But he almost feels that backline with confidence. You can see there's a presence there. I watched Man United and the backline there's no confidence because Bayendir and Onana are both pretty rubbish. With Donnarumma, it gives City this newfound confidence. But yeah, I thought Doku was good today. And these are my stocks, by the way. So just before the season started, these were my players that I thought were going to have good seasons. Yoro, who started the season well, but wasn't good against Man City, but has been good. Mintz has been really under the radar for Brighton. Doku's been good. Rio Enyimoa got that winner. Njai of Everton's been good. Adogi's been injured, and Dorgu's probably been the biggest letdown on this list. But other than Dorgu, I think all of these players have shown quality this season. These are all my players that, their stock's going to rise this season. Because I've watched Doku, and I actually feel that he had something to bring to City. And I think Doku's better when he comes inside more rather than go out wide. And I think you saw Doku coming inside against Manchester United. Obviously, it's Manchester United, but one of the easiest teams to play against at the moment because Ruben Amorim's rubbish. But Doku just tore us apart. Doku absolutely ran inside us, tore us apart in the Manchester derby. He was fantastic, and the goal he scored today was phenomenal. And I think when Doku comes inside more and he has the license to attack the box, he's lethal. I think that Doku was frustrating at times last season for City, and there was times where he wasn't great. But then other times I watch Doku and I can see the player, and that's why he's in my stocks. Whereas I think if he's used and if he's used in his best zones and he's confident, and Pep Guardiola knows how to get the best out of him, I think he's going to have a good season. And I think you've seen his quality today. I mean, his goal, Jeremy Doku's goal today was fantastic. I mean, 6 duels won as well, 3 take-ons, 4 chances created, electric on the ball. He adds directness and unpredictability to City's attack. He's winning his duels, he's winning his take-ons, he's creating chances, he's running at players, he's so unpredictable. The best way to break down a low block is chaos. Doku brought the chaos, Foden brought the creativity, but he's been fantastic in his last 2 games. He's looking absolutely back to his best, and someone that's been fantastic in the last 2 games, and obviously fantastic against Man United, was Phil Foden, who I think got man of the match today. 8 chances created, which is the most by a City player in the Champions League since De Bruyne. He was playing with confidence, maturity. He looked in the right headspace today, Foden. Some of the passes he was playing, the little touches, the little flicks. But also I feel like Foden was in the areas he wanted the ball. Foden was demanding the ball in certain areas, and you could tell that this is the area that Foden wanted the ball. He was combining well with Doku. And he was combining well with Haaland, and he was getting involved, and he was creating chances, and he was being passed the ball in the right area. And look, you can't write Foden off after 1 season. Headspace is a massive thing for footballers. Look at Marcus Rashford today. As soon as he scored the goal, he was a different player. He was, he wasn't good before the goal. Headspace is massive in football. And this is why I say, as a Man United fan, I think one of the reasons players do so well when they leave us is they're not under the pressure, they're not under the media scrutiny, they're in a better environment. And, Haaland will probably have a good season for Napoli, and it's headspace. And I think Foden looked in the right headspace today. I think the Euros knocked his confidence. But last of all, Erling Haaland needs to be stopped. To get 50 Champions League goals in 49 games is a joke. It's an absolute joke. Foden, Doku, Haaland are dangerous. Donnarumma looks good. Kusanov looks good. There's only real question over City's depth, the defensive depth, but they looked confident today. They looked better today. But Haaland is a joke. 49 matches to reach 50 goals. This guy, I think, is going to have a record-breaking season. Thank you for watching. Bye.